Justin, I should say, question.
Okay, in regards to the Arizona University game, in the first quarter, it was 4th down, 2 yards to go. You decided to go for the first down twice instead of kicking the field goal. It is in my belief that if you would have kicked said field goals, we could have kept the momentum and could have potentially won the game. Did you follow the same protocol this week? And you're not a fan of the analytics?
You're not a fan of analytics, so you don't believe in science, is what you're trying to say. You know, there's an argument for that, but the analytics was heavily in favor of going for it in those situations. I've said before, we are pretty tuned into the analytics. It's not absolute for us, and if we have a different field, then we'll go a different direction. But when it's that heavily skewed to going for it, you know, field goals, obviously touchdowns are worth more than double a field goal, and so if you end up kicking field goals a bunch, you don't win many games. And so, in hindsight, if I knew we weren't going to get it on 4th down, we would have kicked. But the strategy and the definite statistical recommendation was to go for it. So, unfortunately, we were 0 for 4th down in that game, where we had been really good the week before. We were 4 for 5 the week before at Okie State. So it was a complete reversal. Okay. Thank you for that question, Justin, by the way. Appreciate it.
A week ago, you said Cam Rising will play as soon as he gets the go-ahead. Is that go-ahead from the medical staff or the coaching staff?
Medical staff, without any other input. I mean, it's all, we're following the recommendations. He is following the recommendations as well as from the doctors, and we'll see what happens this week, but there's a chance, I can tell you that, and it's still early in the week, but we're crossing our fingers and hoping for the best, as is Cam, and so we're just seeing how things play out. But again, we follow all the medical recommendations. We're not going to, you know, I'm not a doctor, Cam's not a doctor, we're not going to go against that, so that's where we're at.
Kyle, I'm just curious, what is, I guess, your strategy behind how you approach the injury report? And to kind of to follow up on that, the Big Ten and the SEC, they have mandated injury reports. Would you be in support if the Big 12 were to go in that direction?
100%, 100%. But since there is no mandate, why would you tip your hand in any way, shape, or form with injuries? It doesn't make any sense to give the opponent any more knowledge than they have. And so that's the only reason. It's no other reason other than a competitive advantage. Even though it might be just slight, it's still an advantage. The less they know, the more we know, you know, that type of deal. But yeah, I would support that if the Big 12 were to come out and say, hey, you need to you know, disclose and have an injury report. But I don't think it should be conference to conference. Again, I think P4 should all operate under the same guidelines, the same rules, regulations. And right now, it's all over the place. And so I would be in favor of whoever would make that call for all P4 conferences to be aligned and have a consistent way of handling and dealing with injuries. So that's where I'm at.
If a player is medically cleared, but he's not 100%, what's your philosophy on playing him if that player isn't 100%, but whatever percent he is, gives you a better chance to win than 100% of the backup? You see what I'm saying?
You answered your own question, PK. Exactly. That's exactly the formula. It's who gives you the best chance to win. Is an 80% Cam Rising more of an opportunity to win than 100% Isaac Wilson? And so that's a coach's decision, a coach's call, and it's you know, it's just, you're not going to be right all the time, but that's the exact criteria we use. And first of all, you know, you don't want to expose the kid to you know, furthering the injury, but you wouldn't get clearance if you didn't, you know, if that was the case. So it would be exactly what you just said. Whoever that particular week gives us the best chance to win, given the physical circumstances, that would be the guy.
Cam is obviously your guy, but does there come a point in the season where if Cam isn't available that you have to look to the future and just turn it over to Isaac just to say that this is what it is, or how long do you wait?
Yeah, that's a good question, and yeah, there is a point. I'm not going to pin ourselves down to an exact specific time, but as things progress, and then also the conference race, you know, where are you in the conference race? There's some things that enter into it, but it certainly could come to that point, but we're not there yet.
And to follow up, well, with Isaac, where does he need to make those next steps each week, especially in the zone, or what are you seeing that needs to improve?
I would say the entire his entire game just needs to continue to get tighter and better. Cut down on the interceptions first of all. We've had some interceptions along the way, but there's not any one glaring area where you can say, boy, he's really lacking in this or that. It's just he's a freshman, a true freshman, and there's going to be a learning curve, and there's going to be mistakes made that you're going to have to live with. And as long as the more reps he accrues and the more time he gets, playing time, the less those mistakes show up, and we're trending in the right direction. That's really what you're looking for.
To kind of piggyback off of that question, given Isaac's struggles with turnovers, is there, if the keys do have to get handed over to him at some point, is there going to be a consideration to maybe get Brandon Rose or Sam Heward more reps, given the struggles that the offense has had without Cam under Isaac?
Not right now. Right now, Isaac is the guy, and if Cam becomes the guy again, then Isaac becomes the clear-cut number 2. And again, if Isaac continues to play and doesn't trend in the right direction, then just what you said may come into play. But right now, we don't feel that's in play at this point.
Bernard's had a fantastic season, but what have you seen from the other running backs lately, and how do you get more production out of that?
Yeah, Mekhi has been the bell cow. He's been RB1. He's played himself into that role. He was not in that role initially at the beginning of the season. We're going to let things sort themselves out, which they have. And he is the guy that's getting the vast majority of the carries. The other backs, Mike Mitchell, just a freshman, still learning, but he's added some value to that room and had some good carries this season. Dijon Stanley's done the same thing, although he's more of a limited package guy. Charlie Vincent's contributed. Jalen Glover is a guy that is in the room as well that you may see start to get more time. But Mekhi is the number 1 guy, and his play has been outstanding, and so that's why he has got the vast majority of the carries.
Bye weeks are important for the players to recoup and rest. For coaches, how much does it help you guys to reset schematically, personnel-wise, just assessing your team?
Gives us a good opportunity to evaluate everything, but there's a lot of recruiting going on as well during the bye week, so it's not just football. Our coaches were on the road for half the bye week, and recruiting never stops. You're doing some form of recruiting every single day, and so when you have a bye week, it lets you physically get off campus and go watch players and evaluate. So that was going on, but being able to again self-evaluate and help make personnel decisions going forward, all that type of stuff bye week is a good time to get that done.
Given that Arizona ran for more than 5 yards a carry and over 150 yards, how do you challenge your defense? How do you talk to them in the film room and kind of set the stage, knowing that you're going against a team that likes to run the ball and is pretty good at it?
Yeah, well, just challenge them just like that. Say, if we can stop the run, then we got a good chance of winning, and we did not do a good job against Arizona. We've done a pretty good job all season up until that game. Well, all season, what was it, 4 games, but that'll be the key this week. They're a run-heavy team. They're well over 200 yards a game rushing, and if we're as non-effective as we were in the Arizona game, it's going to be a long night. And so that is the big challenge for our defense is to stud up and become what we know we can be against the run.
Obviously, you walked into the season kind of because there was rumors floating that Cam could potentially play an 8th year of college football. Given his injury status, is that a possibility if he has to shut down for the rest of the season, that he could potentially come back for an 8th year of college football?
You know what? I couldn't say for sure. That's a compliance question. But if it does come to that point, that's something we would thoroughly have the answer to and research. But haven't even really given that any thought because we're just hopefully going to get him back sooner rather than later. So, and I know he wants to play. He wants to play badly.
With the way that the schedule has been set up, you have this week, next week, and the week after, 3 games, and then another bye week. How crucial is this stretch of the schedule for you guys?
Well, it's very crucial. I mean, we got our backs to the wall in a lot of respects right now. You look at the standings in the Big 12, and there's 2 or 3 teams with 3 losses that are essentially out of it. I mean, I don't see how that any way that they can, I guess, I shouldn't say there's no way, but it's very, very unlikely that they're going to have an opportunity to be in the championship game. And the 2 lost teams have a somewhat of a chance, and everyone with 1 loss or less is still right in the thick of it. But every week we got to get back on track. We didn't play well against Arizona. You can be a good football team and not play well and get your butt handed to you. Look at Alabama. You telling me that Vanderbilt has even close to the personnel that Alabama has? There's no way. I mean, that Minnesota has even close to the personnel that USC has. And so that there's illustrations all over the place where it doesn't matter. Well, it matters, but you can be a really good football team, but if you don't perform and execute, you're going to get beat. And so where we are right now, we can't look past Arizona State. Yeah, there is 3 games and then a bye, but it's all focused on Arizona State, and this is an important stretch, and it's we gotta get the ship turned back around because it was a very disappointing loss against Arizona. The quarterback played well again, Fafita. The receiver's terrific. I don't want to diminish what they accomplished, but we did not play well.
Obviously, you like to have earlier games. I think you said you wanted 4 a.m. games if you could.
Sure, let's go. Yeah.
But when you have these late games, a couple weeks ago with the Arizona game, now you get this game with Arizona State. How do you keep guys, or what do you do as a team to kind of help them kind of stay in the mode and not let the day just kind of get away from them?
Good question. And on game day, when it is a late kick, we have, first of all, meetings. There's some short, not extensive, but short offense, defensive meetings, walk through. We have a flex period where they go and stretch out and stay loose. We got a nap period, a designated nap block of time. There's 3 meals that day. You got breakfast, lunch, and the pregame meal later on. And so we find a way to keep them occupied, but make sure they have enough time just to rest and relax and get themselves ready for the game. And it'll be important this week to hydrate. I mean, obviously that was that'll be part of it. And so pushing fluids on game day as well as all week long, but that's a big part of it.
Kind of to shift focus to the red zone issues that you guys have had for the past 2 weeks, how much of that is not having Cam in the lineup versus just personnel and schematic struggles?
Yeah, Cam's very good in the red zone historically, and so that's a part of it. And we're about 20% off where we need to be. It's not like we just absolutely are horrible. We're at 50%, which isn't good by any means, but 70% is our target. Right. And if we can be 70% in the red zone, which we have been several years, then that's good production. And Cam would certainly, an experienced guy like him that's got as much accrued football time, he's going to be very adept at functioning in the red zone.
Final question.
Sam Levitt was someone you guys looked at in the transfer portal. What stood out about him at that time, and what challenges does he pose to the defense?
His athleticism. He's a true dual threat, as I mentioned earlier. He's doing a good job with the QB run game for him. He's still really young, and so his development is still, ahead of him. His efficiency rating right now is about 133 throwing the ball, so got some work to do there. But he's doing a really good job of doing what they're asking him to do, and they're doing a really good job of making sure the offense is tailored to his skill set. And he's, like I said, a very capable runner. He's a tough kid. We liked everything about him. We thought he could be a terrific safety as well, or linebacker. I mean, he's one of those QBs that could play 2 or 3 other spots, and he's so athletic, like a Chase Hansen type of a guy. Yeah. Go Yankees. 5:08. Is that the kick? I think that's first pitch. Yeah, 5:38, something like that. All right. 5:38. Sorry.
Surprised you're not a Dodgers fan living in.
No, I'm more an Angels.
They haven't had anything for a while.
Was that Kyle Whittingham just saying "Go Yankees"?
He's a big Yankees fan.
I don't like that.
He kind of alluded to it there. He's more of an Angels fan than he is a Dodgers fan because he lived closer to that part of the neck of the woods. But yeah, he's a Yankees fan.
Wow. Really, the way he finished that with the "Go Yankees," I can't endorse that.
Let the vibe deteriorate.
It's gross.
Wait, who's your baseball team?
The Minnesota Twins.
Okay, that's right. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
My condolences to you.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
At least you had Joe Mauer.
We did. Hall of Fame catcher Joe Mauer.
Yes, really good guy.
Anyway, and you know that he was Mr. Gatorade in football too?
I did. That dude was a quarterback.
He's a freak athlete.
Yeah,
he could have been whatever he wanted to be in pro sports, probably.
Could have been a hockey player too. He was a very good hockey player.
Anyway, Sean O'Connell Show, you just heard the Kyle Whittingham weekly press conference. Brief, short, because there's no game from the previous week to recap, obviously. You did hear him allude to what a wild weekend it was in college football, and that's going to be something we're talking about on the show today. I've got a poll question up for you. When you see something like that unfold, right? What was been another top 10 upset. Cal had that game won against the University of Miami.
It was a wrap.
And just let the Fighting Cam Wards come back. Wow. Absolute mess. And Justin Wilcox, the Cal head coach, who, remember, turned down an opportunity to coach his alma mater at the University of Oregon, which is why you have Dan Lanning at Oregon. He has had some of these moments at Cal. Like, he's a really good football coach. And then they'll start to build a little momentum. Some good things will happen. They'll win like 3 or 4 in a row, and you're just like, oh, Cal, maybe we should talk about Cal. Is Cal a top 25 team? What's going on with Cal? And then that. But we're not here to talk about Cal. We're here to talk about Utah football as they get ready for a week against Arizona State. Kyle Whittingham addressed some of the strengths that Arizona State has. And really, I applaud the media that was there because, we got that was the same old song about the Cam Rising situation. And whoever asked the question, like, what's the strategy? Why not tell anybody? The follow-up question that is not asked, because Kyle Whittingham then goes, well, what advantage is there to me telling you whether Cam is ready or not? We're tipping our hand in one way or another. It's not required. It doesn't matter. The question that is not asked that I think we're all collectively going to ask at some point, and this would be the point for me, is, okay, but also this is a unique situation. Like, yes, your policy exists, but this is a unique situation that has caused some erosion of faith in those policies and some erosion of faith inappropriately and unfortunately in the player concerned by those injury reports. That to me is the big problem with this policy right now, is that it has caused people to lose faith in Cam Rising. Your fan base, and again, your fan base having faith in the guy, I guess, doesn't matter that much, as long as the team's all on board. But, man, there's something going on.
Well, he did say that he would be in support of the injury report if the Big 12 mandates it, since it would be even for everyone, right? But he says it should be for the whole P4 situation and not just the conference situation.
Yeah, I mean, what a novel concept that all bodies affected by the same sort of, with the same expectations and chasing the same championship and affected by the same ebbs and flows should all have the same policies. Yes, he's right about that.
Well, he also said, but until they do, why would you tip your hand in any way, shape, or form?
And again, this is a unique situation because letter of the law, spirit of the law, of course, you're just like, I don't have to do it. Why would I do it? Should you do it with Karene Reed? I guess not. Nobody asked about Karene Reed today. I wanted to hear someone ask about Karene Reed today. And you're probably not going to get an answer about Karene Reed, I guess. But with Cam Rising, it's a mess. This policy and the unfortunate bad luck has created a mess. I was hanging out again this weekend with people who were just like, why is he out with a cut? It's been 4 weeks. Also, everyone extends the amount of time he's actually been out because they're so upset about it.
Right.
But like, he's out a month with a little cut on his finger. And it's like, yeah, that's the narrative that you have allowed to grow and to be perpetuated about your starting quarterback.
So if hindsight's always 20/20, right? But let's say the Sean O'Connells were running the program. How would you have handled this from the get-go?
Okay. From the get-go,
yeah,
I would have said, I'm not telling you guys anything. There is no rule that I have to tell you about this injury. So guess what? He's out. We'll tell you.
So would you go on hockey?
He
like
might be
upper body injury.
He's got it. Well, is the hand above the waist or below the waist?
Ooh, well played.
Is he waving at somebody or is he walking?
He's throwing.
Okay, if he's throwing, it's an upper body injury. All right. Now look, if in the initial throes of this, I probably would have done the same thing.
I see what you did there.
However, when there is and this is where Kyle Whittingham's blinders are not helping anybody right now. He is football centric. I asked him at practice last week, hey, you going to the UFC fights this weekend? He's like, what are you talking about? He doesn't even know what's happening in Salt Lake City because his life is football, and that's fine. But there are people in this program and around this program who know what's going on, who know the conversation that's happening, who know what rumblings are going on. And again, in the general fan base, it doesn't matter all that much. But in the booster community and in if that ripple effect of man, Cam is getting soft on us is going through donors who are responsible for paying those salaries, I probably, at a few weeks in, heading into the bye week, I probably say something like, we think we'll be able to get him back after the bye week. Or I'll probably say something like, the injury was more severe than we thought, which is why he's been out these last couple of weeks. We're hoping he can be here, whatever. I just, again, a unique situation like this one where it's affecting things that might actually matter. If it's just fans being mad and if it's some idiot like me on the radio being like, well, I need to know what's going on, then you don't have to change your policy. But you have to read the room that exists in college football right now, which is that name, image, and likeness room, and those people are incredibly upset. Those folks, Alonzo, the ones who write the checks, are bothered. And even if the only conversation you has is with them, that's how I would.
Surprised.
Do you know how many of those boosters would have let that leak?
That's the problem, right?
No, but I don't think if you grab the 4 big money people that are actually paying Cam Rising's salary, if you get those 4 in the room and you say, hey, guys, this is between me, head coach of your beloved your beloved football program. I'm Kyle Whittingham.
Kyle Whittingham's.
I'm not telling anybody else this. I'm just telling you. You can't tell anybody else.
Have to sign an NDA.
Do you know how special that makes them feel?
100%. I mean, it's going to.
You know how many more checks they write
100%.
because they get that special insider information? And would that be exhausting to have to do as a head coach? Sure.
That's kind of a part of the deal nowadays.
It's now a part of the deal. Anyway, Kyle Whittingham was also asked about Isaac Wilson, and is there a point where even though Cam Rising is your guy, if this becomes more of a problem, you just turn the page to Isaac Wilson? And he said, yeah, I guess there is that point. That blows me away. Because guess what? Isaac Wilson in his freshman year is never going to get to the point where he's as good as Cam Rising when Cam Rising's healthy. The fact that Kyle Whittingham acknowledged that, yes, there is a point where we could get to where you just have to say, the Cam thing's not working out. What? No. This year? Right now? With Cam Rising on the sideline in the program? Alonzo, that is the sign of a larger problem.
So we're at game 6, if I'm not mistaken. That's problematic. I mean, because at game 6, you're already talking, you're halfway through the season, right?
Cameron Rising, if he plays the rest of this season healthy, will go down as arguably the best, most important player in the history of this program. He will be atop the meaningful record books at the quarterback position. Scott Mitchell has laughingly complained about it all offseason long. He's going to break all my damn records. He passed up Alex Smith in that season opener while Alex was in the building. Cameron Rising has the potential, if he plays even half of this year, to be the most storied player in the history of Utah football. And we are at week 6, and the head coach is being asked and acknowledging that, yes, there is a situation where we might have to move on while that guy's still on the roster. That scares the crap out of me. That makes me think something different is happening even than I thought I knew.
How did it make you feel when they asked him about what the backup situation would be to Isaac with Sam and Brandon Rose, and he's just like, no. Basically, that's what he said. It was no.
I said, yeah, it's not going to happen. If the offense isn't moving with Isaac Wilson, do you go with one of the other guys? And he was just like, no. So it's you live or you die with what you have. Two things. I will interpret that question the positive way and the negative way. The positive way is that Kyle Whittingham, in his mind, knows, well, look, Isaac Wilson is not my starting quarterback the rest of the year. He's a really solid number 2. I got Cam Rising back against Arizona State, so I'm not worried about what's going on beyond Isaac Wilson. We're not giving reps to those guys right now. They're running scout team right now because I've got my number 1 guy back, and I've got my number 2 guy in Isaac Wilson, who started some games for us, is a freshman who in a lot of ways is ahead of the curve because of that experience, whether I wanted to give it to him or not. So that's the positive interpretation of that question. If you want to start out your Monday the wrong way, Alonzo, because you're just looking to see the world burn, that's Kyle Whittingham going, they're not good. They're not good enough. It's Isaac Wilson or bust.
I really only like to watch the world burn on like even Mondays. and today is not an even Monday.
It's an odd Monday.
It's an odd Monday. Yeah.
It's always an odd Monday when we're doing a radio show together.
It's true. One of the texts that we got in from 3889, I think, or 3869, so I don't have my glasses on. Go Yankees is like saying F you to end the press conference. Inappropriate.
Not quite.
Not quite, but it's close. No, that's not true.
They're also on the text line for 4805. I'm not over the mess that was the Cal-Miami game. If that was not targeting, then I have no clue what targeting is. 2 weeks in a row, Miami's been bailed out. Watching both, and I'm not a big blame the refs guy, but it's getting absurd in the ACC. Look.
That was targeting.
That was targeting.
That was targeting. Listen, as you know, I'm a Southern Californian. Screw everything from up north. That was targeting. And I was pulling for our guy, Zachariah.
Yeah, Zachariah. And the first time game day is on your campus, and the kid makes the $100,000 kick.
Electric game day.
It was on a way to be a storybook day in Berkeley, California.
Yeah.
And instead, you got the 25-point comeback from the Miami Hurricanes with a little assistance from the referees.
Bro, that was
the thing that sucks about when you get if that's not targeting, right? And people are asking, if that's not targeting, what's targeting? Targeting is reviewable. Targeting is reviewed. Targeting, right. It is adjudicated twice. I'm actually on board. I'm fine with referees getting it wrong in the interest of player safety when they're like, oh, that sounded bad and looked bad. And they throw a flag, and then it's like, hey, let's make sure this is targeting. And oftentimes they go over. I mean, this happened
in Oklahoma State.
Happened in Oklahoma State with Teo Johnson.
Yeah.
They're like, he turned side of the head, turned the head, not the crown of the helmet. And that one was still borderline. I thought Teo was going to be gone.
And Scott Mitchell looked at all of us in the booth and said, now targeting. And we were all like, bro, that's targeting. And then the refs came out and adjudicated Scott Mitchell too.
I thought that was going to be, right? So when there's human error and a referee is just like, that was holding, you're like, come on. That's the classic fan experience. Oh, my gosh, that wasn't holding, or that was holding, or whatever. That was Mike Gundy running out at the referees, being like, he's holding!
After he was just tackled by Isaac Wilson.
And it's fine, right? But when you look at things twice, because the rule set allows you to look at things twice and you still get it wrong, that ain't good.
And the unfortunate part, too, is no one on the East Coast watched that live. There is not a chance anyone was up at, I think it was like 1 a.m. Eastern, just watching that. There's no way.
Okay, there's a text that has come in from 5069, all right? It's an interesting point being made, and I'm gonna address this point about there's a problem some people have, and this is not the first time someone has texted this in. This is not the first time someone's tweeted at me about it. There are people who have a problem that your backup quarterback at the University of Utah is a true freshman, that there's not a better option on the roster than that true freshman. I want to address that next because you have to realize what the recruiting picture looks like right now on the college football landscape at the quarterback spot. So 5069, I'm going to address your message very specifically and the fact that Utah has either a seventh-year senior or a fresh-faced 18-year-old who can't even grow a mustache. That's what you got. I'll tell you why on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 7. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, brought to you today and every day by Les Schwab Tires. They've got the tires, the wheels, the accessories for whatever you drive, so stop by your local Les Schwab today and let the professionals there get the job done right the first time. All right, we were talking about, again, the Cam Rising situation, Kyle Whittingham press conference, no clarity. He says there's a chance that Cam can play, that the medical professionals will make the decision about whether or not he can play. Now, I'm going to push back just a little bit on that because I don't know that the medical professionals have said, go ahead and keep Cam Rising in a uniform and have him warm up and have him throw balls in warm-ups, but don't let him play. These game time decisions, how much of those is like a doctor saying clearly he's not ready to play, and how much of that has been the coaching staff being like, well, look, medically, technically, he's probably cleared to play, but I see that there's no spin on that ball. And a conversation with Cam saying, I can't really grip. I'll go for you, but I can't really grip. I mean, how much is the doctor really determining that? So, again, the clarity or lack thereof has been frustrating for people, and that's fine because that's the way it's going to be. I've accepted it. Now, the frustration continues beyond just, hey, well, what the heck? Why don't we get a clear answer? To things like this. I've received some form of this comment from several different places. So this from 5069 on our Dish Pros text line at 877-353-0700. It's not the injury or the lack of reporting the injury. The bigger point is we have a freshman backup quarterback. This is a Power 4 team. We should have a better backup than a freshman. We had a walk-on backup last year. Okay, so, and it goes on to talk about that. The program is suffering because we do not have proper backup quarterbacks. 5069, I am not being a jerk, but I want you now to text me and tell me what is a proper backup quarterback. 877-353-0700. What is your expectation for a backup quarterback at the University of Utah?
Can I ask what your expectation
Who
is?
should it be? Should it be someone who started games at the University of Washington and then had to transfer because things weren't going well at Washington after a former 5-star was there, and then he started games at Cal Poly and had like just okay numbers at Cal Poly, and then that guy is still looking for greener grass and ends up in your program? Is somebody like that a good option as a backup quarterback? Because Utah has that. Sam Heward is that. He was a 5-star quarterback, but when he signed with the University of Washington, it didn't work out super well at Washington. And so he transferred to Cal Poly, and he started games at Cal Poly, and he was fine there. And then this coaching staff went out and said, we got to have a better backup situation than we had with Bryson Barnes last year. All respect to the pig farmer and his grit and his talent and his athleticism and his toughness and his team-first mentality. He's gone. We have to find something that hopefully is an upgrade from that. And Sam Heward was kind of the answer to that question. But then Sam Heward took more time than they thought to learn the offense. And Sam Heward doesn't have as live of an arm as this freshman we're talking about in Isaac Wilson. And Sam Heward is an awesome guy who says all the right things, comes from an unbelievable football family, who knows exactly what it's supposed to be like to play this position, but doesn't have the same ability as the freshman does. So you're going with the future.
It's also not his fault that some guy named Michael Penix transferred there either.
It's not. But guess what? If Michael Penix hadn't been there and Cam Rising had,
Same
he's
problem.
still a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay? So what do you want your backup quarterback to be realistically at a place like the University of Utah? How many teams out there can play their backup and just be like, yep, we're good?
I mean, we saw it at Oklahoma State when they put the Rangel kid in. Like, that was tough. That was tough. Because my guy was just deer in the headlights.
He looked, okay, Alan Bowman had an all-time bad game, was throwing for like
Yeah.
40% completion, like 1.8 yards per completion in that game against Utah, benched him. The backup was so bad that they brought back in the guy who was that awful to start the game.
Yeah.
And then he ended up playing well down the stretch, which is insane. But
Or even Florida with Graham Mertz and Lagaway, right? You're seeing kind of that situation. It's not going ideal either, per se. I mean, yeah, they've won a couple games, but it's not the way that you would expect it, if you will.
the backup quarterback at the University of Utah is never going to be a great player. Isaac Wilson, newsflash everyone, is as great of a player as you can get to be your backup. You know who has a really awesome backup quarterback right now in all of college football?
Who's that?
Texas.
Yeah.
Did you know that the backup quarterback at the University of Texas makes $3 million a year in name, image, and likeness?
And that's just what we know about.
Do you know that he makes more money than the starting quarterback
Yes.
in NIL because of the name on the back of his jersey being Manning?
And Quinn Ewers came back because the plan was to go pro after this year, right? Give Arch the by the way, solid name, not Archie, Arch. Kind of that leap year, if you will, before he goes to the pros, and he can play right now.
He could play. You could put Arch Manning in right now, and it would not be a significant drop-off. How many other teams in the country can say that? Very, very few.
They are. I mean, off the top of my head, right now, they are the only one.
And look, there's more than one, but that's the one we know about.
I'm saying at a high level.
At one point, Cam Rising was that backup quarterback that you brought in, and you're just like, oh, geez, the backup's actually way better than the starter. So there are those situations in college football. Remember when Matt Sluka left UNLV and the coaching staff just kind of was like,
Yeah.
all right.
We got this other guy you haven't heard about.
So maybe they should have been playing him in the first place. I don't know. But that, again, you say, I don't want a true freshman backup quarterback. Who do you want this coaching staff to go out and get you in the transfer portal, or I guess a better freshman than Isaac Wilson?
Well, and in
Who
all
was a really good freshman. Because guess what? If you go find like the best quarterback in FCS and say, hey, come sit behind Cam Rising, that guy's going to be like, no, I don't want to sit. I want to go start for a Power 4 team. And they end up in a place like Vanderbilt, who just upset the number one team in the country.
Well, and in all fairness to Isaac Wilson, he's made true freshman mistakes, but you can argue that he's playing ahead of the kind of the schedule, if you will. Like he's been able to manage the game, for all intents and purposes, pretty well. He's clearly comprehending a very complicated playbook in a way where they've gone. I mean, they beat Oklahoma State. So I mean, it's not like you can't sit here and say that Isaac has been hot garbage.
No, Isaac Wilson is not the problem. And again, when you ask for something better at the backup quarterback position, you have to be realistic. And so, look, 5069, same texter, has now texted again, bringing up an interesting point about the quarterback position overall at Utah being somewhat of a problem and recruiting quarterbacks, and you missed on Zach Wilson because of the Jack Tuttle situation. Okay. So let's make a decision, by the way, on Zach Wilson as a Utah fan base. Was Zach Wilson a super overrated quarterback who only looked good because of the pandemic year, or was Zach Wilson a great quarterback? We have to decide on that before we make any arguments surrounding Zach Wilson. Because Jack Tuttle or Zach Wilson, Jack Tuttle isn't great, all right? Jack Tuttle leaving the program didn't hurt Utah. Jack Tuttle has not worked out in college.
Yeah, it's a push.
Keaton Slovis, all these guys, like, we've seen it. So I'm here for whatever criticisms you have of this Utah football program. I will listen to them. But saying, hey, we have to have a backup quarterback that can win us football games. I know. But do you know how hard it is to do that when you have a seventh-year senior who's getting paid $1.5 million and is, like I said earlier in the show, potentially the most decorated player in the history of the program? To get somebody to play the position behind him out of the transfer portal or wherever else, that's a big, big ask. It just is.
Well,
And they went out and they tried to find that in Sam Heward. And Sam Heward isn't as good as we thought he would be.
Well, and when I remember my first season doing the broadcast for football, first game at San Diego State, Charlie Brewer is just getting pummeled. And they bring in this cat whose name I hadn't seen on the thing, Cameron Rising. And the rest is just kind of history, right? But that room was, at that point, they had dudes in that room. And they went to Cam. And, I mean, you had, if I'm not mistaken, Jackson Dart was in the room at the time, transferred out. So it's not like you can sit here and
No, Jackson Dart was never at USC.
oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
He was at USC.
Yeah. Sorry. Wrong. Point is, they had Charlie Brewer, they had Cam, and at that point, the guy everyone said it was Charlie Brewer. Charlie Brewer was the truth. He's going to carry the team. The whole night that didn't pan out at all.
The thing, see, that's more of a criticism that we should talk about. Is like, hey, is there an issue on this coaching staff with being overly conservative and evaluating talent from an overly conservative viewpoint? Because the Charlie Brewer situation, everything we talked about was Charlie Brewer or Cam Rising, and the conclusion that the coaching staff came to was that, well, these guys from a talent perspective are equal.
Right.
But Charlie Brewer has won big games and has put up stats at Baylor already because he was a transfer from Baylor.
Right.
So do I want the equally talented guy who has experience in big games, or do I want the equally talented guy who's more charismatic and the team likes better? And they went with the wrong choice in Charlie Brewer. You should have gone with the one that the team responds to, and the one, but they know that hindsight is 20/20. The coaching staff knows, and guess what? It all came out in the wash. It doesn't matter. Aside from the fact you have to deal with BYU fans telling you we beat you last time, it really didn't change your season enough for you to care about it too much.
I mean, they went on and won a conference championship.
Exactly. They went to the Rose Bowl. They played one of the all-time great football games any of us ever got to watch. And if Cam Rising had stayed in that game, I think Utah ends up winning it. And guess what? We circle all the way back to Cam Rising. It's not realistic at the University of Utah to have an Alex Smith every single year. It's not realistic. I wish it was. It just isn't realistic. When you're playing for a defensive-minded head coach who runs the ball first, having that guy every single year is not realistic. I wish that it was.
Appreciate you not throwing a flag on me for showing my biases there by accident.
So I didn't want to – I hope I'm not being overly harsh because I appreciate the feedback from 5069 and people who have brought in similar concerns. It just doesn't make sense to say my problem with what's going on right now is that our freshman quarterback is not good enough. Isaac Wilson is the future of this program and is a brighter future in terms of a young freshman quarterback than you've had since who? Brian Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't. Yeah, since
who else were the young quarterbacks that we saw? The guys that we saw play really, really young. We saw Travis Wilson play young.
Jordan Wynn.
We saw Jordan Wynn play young. Are you telling me that those guys are better than Isaac Wilson? No.
No, I mean Isaac. I
the
mean,
arm talent of Isaac Wilson
is above all those guys.
Way better than both of those guys.
I mean, again, he's a true freshman. The fact that he's doing this as a true freshman speaks volumes to where he is kind of in his development right now. Like, you can't question any of that whatsoever. But he's got, I mean, what is he, a 4-star? Was he rated as a 4-star guy, if I'm not mistaken? I mean, that in itself is a big gift for Utah, whether he's local or not. So it's, for me, you can't, yeah, I mean, the future is bright. There's just no other way to put it. He's making freshman mistakes, though. That's expected. He's a freshman.
So, look, this team has the talent it needs to win. At the quarterback position, at the backup quarterback position, at the offensive line position, at the running back position, certainly in the pass-catching options with that deep tight end room and the wide receiving core this year. You have the talent you need to win. You do. This is on the coaching staff and on those players to execute when they are put in the position to play these games. You should have beat Arizona. Even without Cam Rising, you should have beat Arizona. You should have stopped their run, and you should have run your football better. And guess what? We would not be crying and complaining about anything, because they'd be an undefeated football team unexpectedly without the best player on their team having played. Look, I really think, and the chaos of this last weekend showed us how dangerous it is to just be a team in college football.
Well, I mean, look at USC. USC's out of the AP poll completely.
Lincoln Riley has a more talented roster than Utah does every single year. Lincoln Riley's roster right now, if coached by Kyle Whittingham and company,
different story,
would be a totally different story. Lincoln Riley is 5-7 in his last 12 games.
I saw the stat yesterday that at this point in their career, like with the amount of games, Clay Helton was 25-9. Lincoln Riley's 24-10. And you could argue that Lincoln probably has better rosters than Clay had. And they lost to your fighting Minnesota Gophers.
Go Gophers. Row the boat, baby. All right. That was a tangent I didn't expect us to go on here in the show.
I didn't expect you to be that fired up this early.
Well, look, you can criticize this coaching staff for a lot of things. For playing a freshman quarterback is the wrong criticism. And by the way, 3 years from now, we're going to be having this conversation and being like, isn't it great that they played Isaac Wilson when he was a true freshman instead of having Sam Hewitt out there or whatever? Isn't it great that he made all those mistakes back in 2024? So now here, when we're watching in 2026, the guy's got, 27 touchdowns and 3 interceptions because he already made those mistakes.
Like I was talking to our guy Zach in here in the booth, that if anything, these reps that Isaac is getting in these game situations are just going to be just money in the bank. They're body shots, as they say in combat sports, right? Because he's getting. You can do so many things against SUU. You can do so many things against Utah State. But when you get to the Oklahoma States, you get to the Arizonas, that's a whole different animal. Whole different animal.
Now, more texts coming in, and a lot of them are questioning the ability of this coaching staff, the ability of this program to develop quarterbacks. And that is a valid question. Is this a good quarterback development franchise? Well, no.
History would say no.
If you're a great quarterback, USC offers him, or Stanford offers him, or back in those days, if BYU offers him.
Well, I think he told us a story that the other school that offered him was Louisville, and he picked Utah over Louisville.
Which made sense.
Yeah.
So, look, that's a question we can ask. Is this a program that develops quarterbacks the right way? Well, Tyler Huntley got better, but it took some time. And it was probably more growing pains than we wanted there to be. Andy Ludwig has helped to fix this quarterback situation at the University of Utah. All respect to Travis Wilson and company. Travis Wilson, in his 4th year starting, was not allowed to audible at the line of scrimmage. That's how ugly that situation got with the quarterback and the coordinator situation. That's how gross it got with Kyle Whittingham not trusting his offensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator not trusting the quarterback. So if you want to go back to those times because you don't like what you have on the hill right now, be my guest. You had a bad performance against Arizona, and the sky has now fallen on this program. But guess what? Isaac Wilson is the right person to be starting these football games because Cam Rising is not available. And as soon as Cam Rising's available, he's the right person. And I actually am shocked and a little bit bothered by the idea that there is a time, according to Kyle Whittingham, where you do have to turn the page and move on from Cam Rising because of what he has meant to this program and because of what, at his best, we know he is. I don't really buy it. I think he's playing this week, and I think that's why they can say all these things. All right, way over clock, up against it. Thank you so much for the text messages. I do like the interaction. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. from Farmer and Chemist, a new partner here on ESPN 700. Jeff Dunn. Jeff, how are you, sir?
I am doing great. How are you?
Doing all right. Hope your weekend went well. I know a lot of folks were watching college football and saw that insanity, and maybe they had had wagered a thing or two on the favorites and found themselves feeling a little bit of anxiety about what this college football season is going to bring. It was a wild one, for sure. And as I make a joke about anxiety, I know for a lot of people it really isn't a joking matter at all, and there are just people who have a hard time dealing with that, managing that, and finding the right way to treat it. And Farmer and Chemist has CBD, CBN, cannabinoid options that can help out with that, right?
Absolutely. And the NFL was weird too. So what a crazy weekend. But yeah, you're exactly right. So there are lots of different cannabinoids. The ones that have the most data behind them are G, N, and D. And we actually have products that have mixtures of those. And so the key is finding the right product for the right use and the right patient. And so CBD, CBN product works really well for sleep and anxiety. But again, the keys are finding the right combo and the right dose. And that's why we would love to have a conversation, have somebody come in. I'm a pharmacist by training and can walk through that with somebody.
So it's not just anxiety, sleep issues, chronic pain. What else are people using gummies and tinctures and things like that from Farm and Chemist for?
Yeah, the most common uses are just that, sleep, anxiety, and then the other one is the pain and inflammation. So there's another cannabinoid called CBG, and that used in combination with CBD is great. So you can use it topically. You can rub something on like an elbow or a back, or you can take it systemically if you have more broader pain levels. So those are the most common uses, but there's all kinds of stuff beyond that, from mosquito bites to, this all kind. I used some salve on my foot when I had some tendinopathy, and it was great. So there's lots of different uses, but the ones that have the most data are sleep, pain, and anxiety.
And you have special offer for ESPN 700 listeners, right?
Yeah, mention ESPN 700 either online or in the store, and we will discount any purchase by 20%.
And we'll be giving away gift cards in our trivia section today on the show. All you have to do is Main Street in Midvale, or you could go to farmerandchemist.com. Jeff, always love hearing from you. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Go check it out, Farmer and Chemist. Even if you're just browsing and you don't know a lot about these products, the shop itself aesthetically is amazing. It's like an old apothecary. Just has that that vibe, as you like to say.
It is a cool vibe, and their stuff is good. I've been using the problem in salved on the inflamed hand after the surgically repaired thing. Respect, and it doesn't smell poor. It smells like Sean O'Connell, nice and rich. Don't eye roll like that.
Scott Mitchell is going to join us next. The bye week is over. We'll talk with him about what Utah should have accomplished there, and, of course, look ahead to Arizona State. And maybe Scott has a thought or two about the press conference today from Kyle Whittingham, which, if you didn't hear, you can go to the ESPN 700 app, ESPN700sports.com, and check it out there. Scott Mitchell in a few minutes on The Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700. Utah football legend, color analyst on all Utah football radio broadcasts. Conversation with Scott brought to you by Larry Smith Chevrolet. Get Chevy ready this month with better than employee pricing and solid.
Great lesson to learn, and it's a true lesson. I don't care who you are, we're all human, right? And so Alabama has this big emotional win. Georgia, they're kind of feeling good about themselves, and they just lay an egg. And I mean, they did still score, 35 points or whatever, but there's not that same intensity and there's not that same focus. And so if you're Utah, you should learn from this. I think the very best thing that could have happened to Utah is having that loss. You don't ever want to have a loss, but if you're going to have it early on in the season, and if you can use it to kind of propel yourself forward so that you focus every week and that you don't take an opponent for granted, and that you got to figure out whatever way it takes you to win, you got to do that. You got to come with intensity. You got to bring your game every week. Every game is so important, and you just can't let any opportunity slip by. And so I think it's a great lesson to learn, and it was significantly reinforced, this last weekend in college football, that anybody at any given time can get beaten.
That is 100% true as we head into Week 6, Game 6 for the University of Utah. I don't know if you had a chance to hear the Kyle Whittingham press conference where you were able to tune in for that.
Sean, I actually tuned into the Sean O'Connell show and listened to the Kyle Whittingham press conference on YouTube.
I appreciate that. I love that. That's great news that Scott is actually only here for the Sean O'Connell show. He doesn't care about what Kyle Whittingham had to say. No, okay, well, I'm glad you got to hear it because, look, there were some good questions. There were some interesting scenarios brought up, and I'm trying to read between the lines. Do I think Kyle Whittingham answered some of those questions because he knows Cam Rising is going to be back? Was there any kind of tongue-in-cheek? He said there's a chance that Cam Rising is back. Do we believe he's actually going to be back?
I think so. I think having this bye week, and he hasn't really put his hand in any harm's way in a game situation. Hasn't really had any setbacks since Baylor. And that was eons ago. And that was the second game of the season. I just don't see any reason why he shouldn't play. And hopefully he will. Clearly nobody knows, and I really believe he does want to play. And I believe watching him in warm-ups against Oklahoma State, I was really glad he didn't play. I was like, he can't play right now. And so last game it looked better, and I even thought there might be a possibility that he could play. I remember we were sitting in the booth, and and they had just finished their warm-ups, and Coach Whittingham grabbed Cam as they were walking towards the locker room, and it looked like he was saying to him, "Hey, can you go today?" And because he looked good throwing the ball in warm-ups, and it looked like Cam kind of shook him off and said no. But so he did look better 2 weeks ago, and I would imagine that I would be really shocked if he didn't play on Friday, actually.
There was also a question asked, I think, in respect to that question, and I'm with you. I would be shocked if he doesn't play on Friday. I'm going to be down there doing the sidelines. I get to hang out with you guys on the broadcast.
Oh,
I'm very much looking forward to that. I'll be shocked if it's not Cam Rising, but that possibility is something that people have to think about now. And I applaud whoever it was that asked the question. Said, well, is there some point in this season where if Cam is continually a question and you can't really count on him being there, that you just turn the page and you say, okay, now this is Isaac's team? And Kyle Whittingham kind of like said, yeah, I guess there is that point. We're not there yet. And that actually surprised me because, I mean, even if Cam's only available for like 3 games, the best version of Cam Rising is one of the best quarterbacks in program history. So I don't know how you can go away from that. But is that a reflection of where the roster is at? Is there some feeling of like, hey, we know what the fan base and their frustration is, but does that mean it's also carried over to the roster where you feel like you might have to turn the page from that guy? Not just any guy, Scott, that guy.
Yeah, it's a tough position to be in, and a lot of it depends on if Isaac Wilson is playing and the team's playing well, and he's showing an ability to win against important teams, and just be more efficient than what he's been and grow. You want to see Isaac Wilson grow as the season goes on if he's playing, and then but if he's not, you go, well, he's not really ready right now, and we're better off with Cam. I think the bottom line is, you're always looking to put your best people on the field to win now. I mean, that's really the most important thing. So if it's 3 games, if it's 2 games, if it's 1, whatever, then you're going to do whatever it takes to win that game. I think Kyle is really good about staying in the moment. We don't get too far ahead of ourselves. A lot into this, and so you kind of get a hypothetical answer. Well, yeah, I mean, there's going to come a point, but really they're focused on showing up against ASU this week and putting the best team they possibly can on the field. Now, for the long-term health of the program and growth of the program, there probably is a point where Isaac Wilson playing maybe makes the most sense, not for just the short term, but for the long term. He'll be, even right now, light years ahead of where he was a year ago, just from the experience he's got so far. More than likely, he'll probably get more experience during the season. But it just helps you when you get a young player to go through those growing pains, and especially at quarterback, because it's the one position where guys really, it just takes some time. It takes game time. It just takes game seasoning for a quarterback to really get it, and you have to take lumps with that because you have to learn some painful lessons, which we've seen, but you also get some high notes as well. And so but there's no shortcut to it. You have to go through it. So if you go through it now, then it gives you 3 seasons of having a really good quarterback, and you take a 1 up and down season to get 3 really good years.
So it's interesting to see the way that the conversation has kind of evolved from the immediate post-game reaction where everyone's upset, everyone's bothered, and, people trying to find the answer as to the why. Oh, what's going on? What's wrong with this program? What's wrong with this team? And everyone wants to turn it into, I think, a bigger thing than it really is. Now, I'm not 100% certain that the team is as good as we thought they were in the preseason. I'm not certain that we were right about anything in the Big 12 Conference because there's so much craziness happening, and Iowa State right now is really the best team in the conference. But that can change. When I look at the way that over the last, 9 days, 8 days, people are like, well, yeah, Isaac Wilson, you can't have this freshman, Isaac Wilson. I look at the Arizona game, and I don't blame any of that on Isaac Wilson, or very, very little of that on Isaac Wilson. He marched you down the field, or was a part of marching down the field, and then everybody stalled out. The offensive line stops blocking. Maybe the play calling could have been better. I'm not looking at Isaac Wilson as the issue here. Am I wrong?
Well, here's the challenge with, and what's so hard, because it goes back to what you said in the beginning. There's not just a super dominant team in the Big 12 for sure. There's better teams and there's worse teams, but there's not like a dominant team. And maybe that's the case across football. And maybe a lot of that has to do with NIL and these rosters maybe not getting the depth that they normally have. These guys are going other places so they can have a chance to play and start. And there have been some good cases of guys leaving, and it's been a better thing for them. I mean, Quinn Ewers was at Ohio State. Now he's at Texas. Bo Nix was at Auburn, and he went to Oregon and was a top 10 pick in the draft. So these players realize, I don't have to stay here. I don't have to be at Alabama to be in the pros. So the parity is probably much better. And it's really hard every week to go, well, this team's good, this team's bad, and Utah's down the toilet because maybe they're not a very good team, like you said. And the reality is you hit people at the wrong time of the year. You know, a team can be good at the beginning of the year, or they can be playing poorly. Like Arizona wasn't playing that good, and then all of a sudden they showed up at Utah and they were like a better team, and the matchup, you know, whatever wasn't right, or you just had some funny fluky things go on. You can't convert fourth downs, which you'd converted pretty significantly up to that point at Oklahoma State, and so it's really a week to week thing in college football, and it's very not like make a total 100% judgment on a team or a player or a situation based off of just one game. And you have to just look at, you know, next week Utah's going to have a bye week, and Arizona State is on a high. You know, they've won quite a few games and they've turned things around a lot. And I wouldn't be surprised if Utah went down to, you know, Tempe and handled them quite well, just from that perspective. They're a running team, Arizona State is. So, you know, Utah typically handles the run well. Matchups sometimes matter in things. I've tried to get away from the emotional fan reaction to this, like, oh, man, the Utes suck. You know, their season's down the drain. I mean, you hear a lot of people like, Utah's done, they're finished, you know, whatever. And you have a bad taste in your mouth from week to week. But you really have to know that coaches, these players, they'll improve, they'll change, they'll fix problems, they'll, you know, their attitude, they'll adjust all of that stuff. And that's just the ebb and flow of how a season goes. And you can't read too much into or too little into just a one-game experience.
Scott Mitchell, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Lots of interaction going on still on the text line, 877-353-0700. Keep them coming. We're going to get to some of that in the hot lunch here in a few minutes on the show. The Cam Rising situation has created a microscope on this coaching staff and the way that these things are handled, and that was a theme of the press conference today, and that is a theme of a lot of the fan concern right now. The fan concern, that's football. That's all sports, right? Fans get mad about things and they have no control over it, so it makes them even more mad. But now there's a new football where some of these super fans are also super donors, and their reaction to how you handle things and their reaction to this is perhaps actually important. Nobody has to care what I think or even what Scott Mitchell thinks. A little bit. Does there need to be a special level of communication? Does there need to be a special handling of folks that have more significant impact on the roster than the average fan?
Well, it's an interesting dynamic in college football today, because you're almost saying these donors are now owners of the team. I mean, he who has cash is king, and so I would think that their perception is that they're entitled to some kind of say-so or some kind of you need to scratch my back here a little bit for helping out your program. And I'm sure that it happens, because they do a great job of their donor and alumni relationship with some of these big donors and what have you. And they get a lot of special privileges, and quite frankly, they should. But it's what does it ultimately entitle me to? I don't know. When you were saying it, it reminded me of like loaning a family member money, and I looked at it as a loan, and they looked at it as well. This is my brother or my son or whatever, and so that relationship of that money exchange is clouded. And I just learned that if you're going to give money to a friend or a family, it's a gift. Don't ever expect it back, and don't expect anything for it. And so it's a muddied relationship, because that's someone who's given you money, and it's not really clear what the return for that money should be. And I don't know that there's a rule or a law for it. Maybe there should be. I don't know, but it's certainly, money does funny things all the time to people and situations, and you get a lot of programs where they go, these donors are out kind of rogue, doing stuff on their own. It's like, hey, we can go do this now. We're going to go do all this stuff, and because really, I don't know how much communication there actually is or allowed between the coaches and the donors and the NIL programs, but I don't think there's supposed to be a lot, but it sure seems that they're all kind of in bed together with it. And whatever it is, it's just hard. It's just, money does weird things and makes relationships just brutal. So when you get into a Cam Rising situation, I mean, if I donated, to a 7-figure NIL deal for someone who's hardly played, I would not be happy about it. I would like, hey, I want my money back, or what's going on here? Because I just don't know that people are going, oh yeah, this is just a free gift. Go do with it what you want. They're investing in the program to get a result, and they expect a result.
Scott Mitchell for another minute or two here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things Utah football, all things Big 12 football. Big noon kickoff is coming to Utah this week, but Utah's in Arizona. The BYU Cougars are getting the national attention right now. They are a higher-ranked team than the Utes. Does that affect the Utah fan base? Does that affect the Utah team in some type of way? They were the projected conference champions, and now the attention is on the rival.
Losing to Arizona like Utah did a week ago was bad enough, and the fact that BYU is still undefeated and that they won, I guarantee has turned a lot of stomachs for the Ute faithful, and mine included. You don't want your competition. You don't want the team down south to be the one that's getting all the attention. But the reality is they're undefeated, and they have a very favorable schedule, kind of moving through the season. And of course, they're going to be at home. This will be electric for BYU, and it'll be interesting to see how BYU handles Arizona, and how, is that the same type of game, or so. I'll just tell you right now, if BYU beats Arizona, there's going to be some severe salt in the wound with the Utah folks.
Scott, it's always a great pleasure hearing from you. Well, you'll join me on the show later in the week, right? That's still the plan?
Yes.
Okay, we'll spend that time to focus on the Arizona State matchup. Can't wait to see your thoughts on this. So thanks for your time today. Appreciate you.
You got it. Yep. Look forward to it.
Great stuff as always from the quarterbacking legend Scott Mitchell, one of the best in the business. Again, that conversation brought to you by Larry H. Miller Chevrolet. Better than employee pricing and the Solitude Season Pass. I could see you out there on the slopes Alonzo.
Do I look of the type of the snow?
You could be a snowboarder.
I-
Not
I-
a skier.
No,
Absolutely.
no.
You're definitely not a skier.
Definitely not a ski. I could snowboard. I mean, I did skateboard a lot, but I know it's a little different because I'm strapped to the board. I'm a little too tropical for those sports, though.
Okay. Scott Mitchell just brought up a really, really good point for me. We're going to talk about gift versus investment in the hot lunch. That's coming next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700. I'm trying to make a complicated issue simple. At least one texter has the solution to all of Utah's problems, and that's what being a fan is. And I love it, and I'm appreciative of you listening and giving me your feedback and allowing me to express some of your viewpoints through my platform. I really, really do enjoy it. The Hot Lunch is brought to you by Jersey Mike's. Every sandwich sliced right in front of you. Cheesesteaks made to order on the grill. So what are you waiting for? Jersey Mike's is a sub above. And get it with the juice.
What's your go-to order at Jersey Mike's?
Usually I rotate back and forth between an Italian and cheesesteak, provolone, no whiz. You can, like, I know that Philadelphia people don't like that, but leave whiz off of my real food.
Yeah, I get the Philadelphia with the provolone or the turkey and provolone.
Okay. Why do you say provolone?
I have an inside joke with a friend of mine who is Italian, and his last name is Falcone. And I think he listens to the show, so T, much love to you, my
Okay.
guy.
All right. For the Hot Lunch, I want to talk about something that Scott Mitchell brought up. And I guess I forced him to bring it up because I asked him about that idea, like, upsetting your fan base only matters so much. Upsetting a fan base that now actually contributes in a meaningful way to your NIL fund, that maybe means more. And should people be given special access or special information, special knowledge just because of that? And Scott brought up the comparison, like it's kind of like lending money to a family member. You think it's a loan, they think it's a gift. That's the real question. Is it a gift or is it an investment? Your support of Utah's NIL fund, your support of Utah athletics in general, is it a gift or is it an investment? Is it a transactional relationship or is it just something where it's a sunk cost for you? And you know that I'm giving this money, and as soon as I give it, my control over it, my ability to influence the results because of it, gone completely. Cam Rising is making an estimated $1.5 million in NIL money this year. Most of us doing this show, most of us listening, have never made that money in a year, and for most of us, it takes many, many, many years to make that kind of money. And that allows people to feel some type of way about an injured player. Injured is the key word here. Someone who is not bothered by a boo-boo, someone who's actually injured and his body doesn't function the way that you need it to spin a football. So when you are donating, or even when you're buying your tickets and whatever it is that you think, whatever money you spend that you think is funneling into pockets and funneling into whatever, is it a gift or is it an investment for you? What is it for you?
For me, I would look at it as an investment, in the sense of whatever money I'm contributing, I'm treating it as there's going to be some sort of a return, and the return hopefully is a conference championship or a playoff appearance, in my mind.
Okay. I see my fandom, my purchasing of a 49ers hat is what it's like. I just want entertainment.
Right.
Am I more entertained by championships? Yes. Do I not buy the ticket or buy the hat when it's not a championship year? No, that's not how my relationship with it goes. But I'm not saying if that's better or worse.
So, like, right now, your Niners are in the tank.
I don't know what the hell is happening with the San Francisco 49ers. We're going to talk about that on the show more tomorrow with Jeff Schwartz when he joins us.
Everything is clearly broken.
And how? Because you looked at the offseason, it was just like, hey, you're spending money. You got all this personnel. This is the window. It's open, and it's going to close when Brock Purdy. Well, Brock Purdy's still making $1 million this year.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy is making less money this year than Cam Rising is.
So with how trash your Niners are, sorry to disparage them, not really. Are you still going to continue to buy? Are you still going to go buy that Brock Purdy jersey?
Well, he's not the jersey I'm buying.
Right. Well, but you get what I'm saying.
Like, am I still going to go spend money on 49er tickets?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I still going to buy a 49ers hoodie if I'm like, oh, look at that. That's a different colorway than I've seen. I like that one. Yes.
Because I feel like everyone's fandom's a little different, right? Like I'm from California. I'm from Southern California, Los Angeles specifically, where the expectation with all of our teams is championship, right? And that's why everyone's kind of okay with spending $40 for a bucket of nachos at Dodger Stadium for Ohtani. It's not looking great for my Dodgers right now because apparently everything's broken with them too. But beside the point is, I still understand that if I spend the $40 on the nachos, the $100 on the parking, I know what I'm getting back in return, right?
For the most part, you think you know what you're getting back in
yeah.
return, and sometimes you don't. Like, there were people who planned their entire weekend around night game, blackout, Rice-Eccles Stadium, and what did all of us think was going to be the result of that game?
A bulldozing.
It was going to be amazing. The wave of sound coming down from the muss was going to make Noah Fafita cry, and Tetero McMillan was going to wet his pants, and Brent Brennan's lei that he wears for every game was going to wilt under the power of Rice-Eccles Stadium.
And what happened, Sean?
And it didn't happen. And there are a certain, I think, minority of people, I do think it's a minority, who are just like so bothered by this that they're questioning, like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? Well, this is college athletics. Imagine if you're an Alabama fan today. You think it's bad at Utah? Imagine if you're an Alabama fan.
Imagine being an Alabama fan that traveled to Nashville. We're like, I'm going to go have a good time on Broadway. The Roll Tide's just going to clobber the Commodores, and then you're sitting at a bar drinking your pain away, and then the goalposts just drive by.
Yeah. By the way, those goalposts broke through a police blockade on Broadway.
That was incredible.
So here's the thing. I want you to know that it's an investment if you are purchasing a house. It's an investment if you are, I don't know, buying a car, even though that's not a great investment. If you're spending money on tickets, it's a gift. It's a purchase. It's not an investment. Don't expect a return. And look, if you're a donor, and I'm not one, but if you're a donor and you're expecting return on investment, you're making a very, very bad investment. You're investing in one of the most unpredictable commodities out there, young athletes. And in a lot of ways, you're investing in high school recruits.
Well, it's like sports betting. You can know all the things about sports betting, but doesn't mean you're going to hit that 7-leg parlay. No, there's no guarantee of any of that.
Yeah. This time of year, it's still warm here in Utah, but a month from now, you're going to see frost on the grass, and you're going to wonder why that draft is coming through your windows. Make it happen right now. Get it fixed. Advanced Window Products is giving $2,500 off 10 windows or more. If it's time to remodel, if it's time to upgrade the windows in your home that is otherwise probably in good shape, probably feeling pretty good about it, but dang, the neighbor threw that ball and it cracked that one window and you just taped it and you didn't want to spend anything on it, but you're looking around and you're seeing that the other frames are aged and you don't have the upgraded gas between the window panes, and that's making your house less efficient, and your power bill is way up, and your gas bill in the winter is going to be way up. Advanced Window Products make it more efficient, make it look better, and more importantly, know that you can rely on a local company with local interest, local folks that you can trust actually running this thing, including the mayor of Sac Lake City, Nate Orchard. 801-850-9100, $2,500 off 10 windows or more. During the football season, advancedwindows.com. They find solutions to your problems. If the problem is a window, you don't have that problem anymore as soon as you make this phone call. 801-850-9100. Is it a gift or is it an investment? "22-year-old athletes, it is more of a purchase or a gift than it is an investment." For example, here's a good example of this. I made an investment in hockey club tickets, that's not actually an investment. I purchased Utah Hockey Club tickets knowing that I'm just like gifting this money to the Smith Entertainment Group, and I'm expecting to be entertained in return, but I also know that this is maybe not even a playoff team.
Well, I mean, and in your defense, I mean, you also love hockey. So you're wanting to be entertained.
Yes, and look, there's going to be games where I'm just like, what'd they do that for? That's the fan experience. We don't have control. And now that there's this illusion of control, or in some ways there is more of a real amount of control if your money goes towards purchasing players or paying players in the college football space. But I still think it's pretty much an illusion of control because you could pay as much as you want into that NIL fund. You probably don't get to decide who it's spent on. And then when it's spent on somebody, you can't decide whether that person stays eligible with their grades. You can't decide whether that person stays healthy. You can't decide whether or not that person shows up to all the workouts, stays focused. You can't decide if that person becomes Arch Manning or if that person becomes fill in the blank on a quarterback that disappointed you in the past.
So what you're saying is, even though I'm a Packers owner, it means absolutely nothing.
You are a Packers owner. Yes,
I am.
I'm very, very proud of you.
Thank you.
All right. I alluded to my Utah Hockey Club purchase, and I'm very, very excited about attending those games as a fan, as an individual who just enjoys hockey. I think that means I'm going to have to snag one of these commemorative puck situations.
You don't say.
Bob Eibach joining us now from Nico Sports. Bob, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Been listening to your show here in Chicago. Always, I catch your show quite often here. I did talk radio for many, many years, so I always appreciate a good host on the air and getting out some interesting information. And I've enjoyed your last little segment here. Yeah, the Utah Hockey Club puck set that we talked about the other day is really, really nice. We're about halfway sold out, and I wanted to get back with you today to let you know about what we're doing. Anybody that hasn't heard about this, and certainly, with the big game, the debut game tomorrow night against the Chicago Blackhawks over at the Delta Center, you're going to want to get this, I believe, as maybe a holiday or Christmas gift idea, or maybe a gift that you can give out to that hockey fan. You've waited so long to have a NHL team out there. What I'm talking about is a 2-puck set. You get 2 different pucks. Each one comes in their own display case with a gold base. It's an acrylic display case. We're only going to make 2,024 of them, the sets, and we're already halfway sold out coming into today. So I urge people to do this sooner than later. It's $79.95 to get the set. Each one comes with an individually numbered certificate of authenticity. I'll quickly describe what the pucks look like, then I'll give out that hotline number and website to call. The first puck is the Utah Hockey Club puck. It's an official NHL game puck. They're really, really nice, and it looks stunning inside that special case. The second puck is on the top side. It has the inaugural season logo. The first game, of course, tomorrow night against the Blackhawks at the Delta Center, and the date of that game. And then on the flip side of that, we've got the entire roster from this year's team put on there. So years from now, you want to go back and see who was actually in that very first debut game. You got everybody's name there. Again, these are just $79.95. Only 2,024 of them will be made. You'll get that numbered certificate of authenticity. Here's how you can go ahead and get this. There's 2 different ways we set up. I encourage people to even check it out right on the website as well. The toll-free number is 1-800-345-2868. 1-800-345-2868. Or go right to the website. You can also order it there. You can't get through the phone line because I know they've been very busy. NICOsports.com, and you spell it NIKCO sports.com, NIKCO sports.com, or 1-800-345-2868 is the toll-free number. You'll get this in plenty of time to maybe consider it for a holiday or Christmas gift idea. It'll be sent to you probably in about 5 weeks. And I know in closing, tomorrow night's game is pretty interesting because I'm in the Chicagoland area. Of course, I see the Blackhawks quite often, and Connor Bedard is really quite an athlete. When I covered the Philadelphia Flyers many years ago in the late 70s, early 80s, the Broad Street Bullies, I saw the debut season of Wayne Gretzky, and this kid that the Blackhawks have reminds me a lot of the great one.
And we learned the other night in preseason hockey, if you get after Connor Bedard, the entire Blackhawks roster is going to fight you. So this one could get a little bit chippy. This is going to be a fun one. You got Cooley on one side, you got Bedard on the other one, and you've got an opportunity now to get these Utah Hockey Club official commemorative pucks. They're not making any more of them, so do it now. Nikco Sports, Nikco Sports.com or 1-800-345-2868. Thanks for the time. We're just going to have you call in and lend us those dulcet tones. You got the pipes for radio, obviously, so every once in a while just call so we can hear your voice.
Hey, listen, I appreciate the compliment. I did talk radio for many years. You may remember Nick Charles on TV. Nick and I did a talk show in Baltimore that we called The Main Event from Johnny Unitas' Golden Arm. And we had some pretty good guests there back in the 70s. Guys like Muhammad Ali, Billy Martin, Earl Weaver, Arnold Palmer. We had some good guests, and we had some great dialogue over those years.
Bob, great hearing from you. Thank you.
All right, have a good day now.
That's Bob Ibach, Nikco Sports, to get a hold of your Utah Hockey Club inaugural season commemorative pucks. NIKCOsports.com, $79.95 for 2 pucks in commemorative cases. And again, they're making 2,024 of them. They're already half sold out. They're not going to make any more. Utah Hockey Club starts off tomorrow night. Puck drops on a brand new era of sports here in Salt Lake City. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. Sean O'Connell Show continuing here on a Monday. This show has taken turns I did not expect.
No, it's not. It has not been a case of the Mondays.
I'm really excited about it. We're getting a ton of text messages. I had a conversation, the hot lunch. We talked about expectations, right? And I will throw a flag on myself, 5-yard penalty, for not coming up with what is really the right characterization of the money spent as a fan. It's not an investment, and it's not a gift either. You know what it is? And you brought this up. It is a bet.
Yeah.
It is a wager. And nothing made that more clear to me than this great text from 0626. Respectfully have to disagree with me saying what I said. If I'm spending my hard-earned money on tickets, I want to watch them win. I'm not spending my hard-earned money to watch them lose. Actually, you are. You're spending your hard-earned money betting that they will win, but you are spending your hard-earned money knowing full well that there is a possibility that the team you spent that on will lose. Now, in the case of the University of Utah, the odds are that you're spending that money to watch them win most of the time. And if you're only going to one game this year and you happen to choose the Arizona game, I feel really bad for you because I think that they've got a great shot to win the rest of their home games, at least. They've got a shot to win the rest of their games, period, if things go well. But it is something that we all have to acknowledge for ourselves, the fan mentality, especially as we apply it to a team that we feel so emotionally invested in and we spent so much time watching. When you say, I'm not spending my hard-earned money to watch them lose, yeah, you might be. You might be. And I understand the frustration that comes with that, and I understand the frustration that comes with, like, well, not only do I spend the money on the ticket, but also on the gear, and also on maybe a donation to the NIL fund or a donation to facilities or a donation to a scholarship fund or whatever, and I'm not getting what I thought I was getting out of it. It's a wager. It's a bet. It's more like a bet than it is like an investment. You do have a right to feel upset if your bet doesn't cash. You do have a right to feel upset if they lose games that you don't think they should lose because you did make that purchase. You did make that wager. But that's the only thing you have a right to be, is upset. We don't have a right to control it, unfortunately. And that's the difficulty of being a fan for this Utah team when it doesn't live up to expectations. It's interesting now because you've got the Utah Jazz where people are going to purchase tickets to that at a lower clip, but they're going to purchase tickets knowing full well that this Jazz team is not going to be good. And that there's like a 60% chance whatever Jazz game you go to, they're going to lose. You're watching to see what Lauri Markkanen can become. You're probably watching to see who the other team brings in to Salt Lake City to play against you. It's going to be weird, man. Anyway, thank you, 877-353-0700, the Dish Pros text line, for the great interaction on the show today. Belle Frazier, the new beat writer covering Utah Hockey Club for the Salt Lake Tribune, is going to join us in just a couple of minutes. I want to remind everyone, though, about Underdog Fantasy and the possibility of making your investment, your interest in these games even stronger. Maybe you got to be careful about that because you're already so emotionally deep into it. But Underdog Fantasy has been a lot of fun for me to get involved in this year. The app is really easy to use. Signing up is even easier than using the app is. You can go to UnderdogFantasy.com, or I really do encourage you to use the mobile app. Just download it. And then sign up with the promo code OC Show. Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em. And it also unlocks the possibility for you to get $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. OC Show as you download that app or as you sign up at UnderdogFantasy.com. And it's super easy to play. The way you play is you select players and you guess higher or lower than the totals they've got as their projected statistical outcomes in these games. And you can stack them on top of one another. So I did a 4-pick cash pick'em this weekend on the NFL games. And pending what happens in the Monday night game, pending Travis Kelce's performance, does he go higher or lower than the number? And I'll pull up the number for you just so I make sure I'm giving you the right picture of how you actually do this. So Travis Kelce has to go higher than 56.5 receiving yards. And then my 4-piece cash pick'em, boom, winner, winner, chicken dinner.
And you took the higher?
I took higher than 56.5 receiving yards for Travis Kelce. I took higher than 233.5 total yards for Caleb Williams. I took higher than 58.5 rushing yards for James Conner. And I took higher on the George Kittle total as well. And bada bing, bada boom, if Travis Kelce helps me out, I've got 4 picks stacked on top of each other, which causes, of course, the multiplier to come into play. And my $10 pick becomes a nice little payout. OC Show to sign up for yourself. UnderdogFantasy.com. It really is a massively entertaining way to get more involved in college football, in MMA, in the pros, NFL, Major League Baseball, whatever you want. UnderdogFantasy.com. Belle Fraser joins us next to talk about Utah Hockey Club a day ahead of puck drop on their inaugural season. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. Are you a hockey fan? Are you a beer fan? If you like beer and hockey, you're going to love this new release from Epic Brewing Company, Utah Hip Check Ice Lager. Delicious 7.5%, I should say, Imperial Lager. Now available in 16-ounce cans at Epic Brewing and state liquor stores. Beer and hockey, Lonzo, that seems like something that goes together, those two things.
It's a beautiful thing. Add some wings, and that's a trifecta.
Come celebrate the new Utah Hockey Club. Pick up a cold, full-strength beers at Epic Brewing, including Utah's Hip Check Ice Lager. That's 825 South State. And Spence Checketts is actually going to be broadcasting live from Epic Brewing tomorrow ahead of the puck drop for the season opener. That'll be 2 to 5 for pregame at Epic Brewing as we get you started with a Utah Hockey Club season. It's going to be a lot of fun.
How excited are you to go?
I'm over the moon. I'm really super pumped about this.
Because I know hockey was life for you at one point.
It was a long, long time ago in my child life. I'm a sports fan in general.
Yeah.
And
Except golf.
Well, golf is a game, not a sport. You know?
Wow.
If you can play it when you're 90, it's a game.
Okay.
All right?
I'll take, but okay. I'm here for it.
I love sports. I love contact sports. I have a deep admiration for hockey. I'm not a purist. I'm not a diehard. All the major professional sports. I think to be a great hockey player, you have to exhibit like the full package of athletic skills. You got to be tough. You got to be in great shape. You have to have unbelievable hand-eye coordination. You have to have explosive speed. You have to have endurance. You have to have all the things that are component parts of other sports. You have to have kind of all of them in hockey, and you have to do it forward and backwards on ice. So
that's the craziest part for me about hockey, that you're playing it on ice. If like there's no brakes on your ice skates, you're going, and you're going fast. And how fast those guys are, and how big some of those guys are too.
There's breaks. It's the boards. They're breaks. The breaks are the boards in the glass.
I believe that's called inertia, or rock.
It's awesome.
Meet hard spot.
So yeah, and I'm really excited about the idea that this whole like the Utah sports viewing community, we all get to jump on a bandwagon at the same time. Every one of us gets to jump on the Utah Hockey Club bandwagon tomorrow night. And it's a free pass on being a bandwagon fan. You don't have to be a Coyotes fan. Like, the only downside of this is my San Jose Sharks gear is now
useless.
I got to find something to do with it. It's probably headed to the DI.
Yeah, about to say you're going to donate it. Listen, I'm not a huge fan of hockey, but I'm going to acquire a sweater.
You should.
Yeah.
We all should. Anyway, I put some polls out today. I thought the show was going to be a little bit slower, honestly, than it has been today.
Man, was that a lie.
I put some polls out about a couple of things from the wild weekend of college football. One of them was if you're affected at all, if your viewpoint, your outlook is affected by how crazy college football was this weekend. I know that we were all bothered by Utah losing to the University of Arizona unexpectedly and looking very lackluster in doing so. And look, the polls punished them pretty severely for it. They dropped them all the way to number 18. This last weekend, you saw the number one team in the country who had just demolished Georgia get beat by Vanderbilt. Tennessee got beat by Arkansas. Arkansas totally upstaged by Vandy, unfortunate for the Razorbacks. Tennessee was a top 10 team in the country, got upset. USC got upset. Miami was on its way to losing. The number 10, the number 11, the number 4, the number 1. Everybody with these unexplainable losses. So a reminder that college football is absolutely insane and crazy and fun and wild. And did it walk you back from the ledge a little bit as a Utah fan? Like, okay, even the truly great blue blood teams feel this pain every year. Are we going to be okay? So I said, did the insane weekend of college football make you feel more or less confident in Utah football's ability to be a conference champion, a playoff team? 21% said more confident. 26% said less confident, and 53% said, is Cam playing or not? That's really what matters to people here. Now, the other one was just because I'm in awe of certain players and I'm fascinated by where they come from. And right now, the Heisman Trophy frontrunner at the roughly halfway point of the season, do you know who he is?
Currently, no.
According to the betting odds, the Boise State running back Ashton Genty is the front runner for the Heisman at this point in the season.
See, I would have put my money on Travis Hunter. I just feel like we talked about this off air the other day. I just don't think he's going to get it because he's more recognized as a defender.
I think that he has a great shot of getting it if Colorado ends up being
better,
a conference championship contender.
So like with Boise State looks to be the favorite.
They might be a playoff team.
They might be They might be the They might be the bowl busting team, right?
They could be. Yeah, they could be the BCS busters.
Yeah.
Right. And Ashton Genty right now has played 5 games and has over 1,000 yards,
which is insane.
And by the way, he hasn't played 5 games. He's played 4 games.
Yeah, 4 games
because he rested the second half of 2 of those games.
And poor Utah State just getting run over.
I didn't know. I honestly didn't know if he was going to play more than a quarter in that game because his first touch was the 63-yard touchdown. I'm just like, oh boy, that's a long day. So I chose 3 guys that are all going to go to the NFL, but technically they're eligible for next season.
They're all juniors, if I'm not mistaken.
They're all juniors eligibility-wise. And I think all 3 of these guys have a shot to be in New York for a Heisman Trophy ceremony presentation. One of them might win it. I chose these 3 because of those things. Great players, 3 different positions, which is very, very convenient for me in this poll question.
Right.
And also guys that, I mean, technically it's a real possibility. It's a possibility. I said if you could get any of these guys in the transfer portal, who would you go for? Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, Jalen Milroe. You're getting 1 year out of each of them. That's it. You're not getting more than a year out of any of those guys.
It's kind of hard, honestly, with how you propose the question to not, man, it's really hard to not pick Travis Hunter. It really is. Because Travis Hunter is probably, I mean, Ashton Genty, you bro can go play for the Browns today and would probably crush. But it's really, especially here at the University of Utah, it's really hard to not say Travis Hunter.
So you've got Travis Hunter, who is the second, right now, the second highest or the second best odds to win a Heisman Trophy. You've got Ashton Genty, who currently is the best odds to win a Heisman Trophy. And then 4th best is Jalen Milroe. He's just behind Cam Ward, whose 25-point comeback against Cal helped to put him in that position. The Miami quarterback, formerly at Washington State, and of course started his career at Incarnate Word. The transfer portal and the name, image, and likeness thing have been very, very good to Cam Ward. But Cam Ward is a senior. There's no chance for him to get more eligibility. The other guys are juniors. You could have a 1-year rental with each of them.
Who would you pick in your proposed poll?
I mean, Travis Hunter.
Okay.
For me, having an all-conference caliber player on both offense and defense in one body
is insane.
You don't have that opportunity in college football. It doesn't exist most years. The last time we saw this was, I mean, obviously you could bring up Aqib Talib and you could bring up Charles Woodson. There was actually, people probably maybe don't remember super well, Owen Marisic was at Stanford and was a really good defensive player and also like a pretty solid Chris Cooley type U-back, like a fullback tight end type individual. But that's such a specialized offensive position. So Owen Marisic played both ways, but it was like, it wasn't 120 snaps a game.
Yeah, but I say it's not the same. There's no parity.
And he was good enough to be considered all conference, like honorable mention all conference in both of those. You just don't see it. We could spend another 15 years before there's another Travis Hunter. We could spend another 25 years in college football before there's another Travis Hunter. He is very unique. And by the way, what little I know of him, having an opportunity to have now spoken with him personally 3 times, he just seems like a regular kid who loves football.
Yeah, he seems like a good kid. Like, you hear a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of negativity around that program, but you don't really seem to see it associated with him.
And, like, you could actually look a little bit deeper. Again, I don't know him, so I don't know if he's actually, like, a quality human being or not. I have no reason to believe he's anything other than that.
Right.
But I'm impressed by what I have seen, and we all only get to see what we see, but I'm so impressed with what I have seen because even when he had opportunities to not take a high road, he took a high road. The most obvious example of that is last year when the dirty hit took him out of the season. And he could have doxed that kid. He could have been like, yeah, go get this fool from Colorado State and ruin his life.
He took the opposite.
He did the exact opposite. He brought him on his little Twitch stream, and he was just like, man, we're cool, so you guys should all be cool with this dude. He didn't have to do that.
No.
That was doing – the only reason to even do that is to do that kid a favor. That's it.
Well, and I mean, and even listen, if he doesn't win the Heisman, I'm not gonna like cry tears for him because he's probably gonna be the number 1 pick overall in the draft.
He's got a chance, depending on who's drafting number 1
Right.
and how bad the quarterback need is. But there hasn't been a very obvious, like, elite pro level quarterback that's emerged. Some people think it's his own teammate, Shedeur. Like comparisons between them.
Right.
But Shedeur Sanders was brought up with a silver spoon in his mouth and acts like it. Now, is he a great quarterback? Yes, he is. But Travis Hunter did not come up that way. And Travis Hunter, what we know of him is that not only is a football junkie and he is doing things on a physical level that nobody in college football is even asked to do. He also, like, did it out of nowhere. Shedeur Sanders had every asset available to him coming up. Now, do NFL teams care about that in their quarterback? You kind of have to, I think. You sit down and you talk about the quarterbacks with these interview processes. Are people going to like Shedeur Sanders in the locker room? I don't know. Maybe they love him. But I know they're going to love Travis Hunter. So how are you drafting based on that? Jalen Milroe, Ashton Jeanty, Travis Hunter, who would you rather have for a 1-year rental at the University of Utah, at BYU, at whatever your favorite program is? I know Alonzo wishes he had that NIL money at USC to spend on one of these guys.
How dare you?
1624 on the text line says, I'm bringing Ashton Jeanty here. Receiver and corner are not a need. Anybody picking Hunter is a prisoner of the moment. Wrong, sir. Now, Dorian Singer is a top-flight receiver. You do not have a better receiver on your roster than Travis Hunter. And you do not, even though corner is not a position of need, you don't have a better corner on your roster than Travis Hunter. So if you can get both of those in one body,
in one
pretty
body.
awesome.
Yeah.
It's just a 2-for-1. Like,
I understand the want of Ashton Gentile, right? I mean, it's what he's doing is phenomenal. But do you I know right now they wouldn't be opposed to having him, but is it one of those things where what would you rather have? And for me, it's like, if you can get 2-for-1, why not? Like, I know that's greedy and that's not the move, but why not?
Look, Ashton Jeanty is an elite running back, 10.5 yards a carry right now. Averaging 10.5 yards a carry.
So they're just going to give him the doke now, right?
The doke is already decided.
Yeah.
If he got injured for the rest of the year,
it's already a wrap.
He should still get the doke walker. Heisman Trophy, he's going to have to play the rest of the year.
Right.
And they're going to have to be good because people are going to be real reluctant. Everyone's going to use this against him. Oh, well, he only had 110 yards in the Mountain West Conference Championship game. It's like, dude,
They ran for 200 against Utah State.
That was on 6 carries.
Let me ask you this then. I'm actually that like leading into that. Okay, so if your Heisman front runners are currently Ashton Gentile, Jalen Milroe, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, the excuses that they're going to use to not give it to Ashton are going to be that, like, there's going to be some serious mental gymnastics, right? I'm not just the only person thinking
Well, it
that.
depends on how good Miami. If Miami's in the college football playoff and a top 4 seed, and Cam Ward, look, Cal choked that game away,
Yeah,
and the
did.
targeting, they got the help from the referees. But Cam Ward did what he was supposed to do. If Cam Ward has a great year at the quarterback position at the University of Miami,
The U.
and they end up as a college football playoff team, he's probably going to win it. But it's been a quarterback award. These guys are all going to get invited regardless.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, it's just optics, right? You have
Ashton Genty might be like Alex Smith was. Alex Smith was the best player in the country the year that Utah went to and won the Fiesta Bowl. He was
Right.
the best player in the country.
Yeah.
His numbers were phenomenal. He was the best player in the country. He was the fourth place Heisman Trophy votes getter. Because
Which is crazy.
He was at the University of Utah.
Yeah. So for Boise State, it has to be, you got to be a playoff team. You got to win your conference. And I don't know what the trifecta
And
is.
like, even if they end up losing in a playoff, well, that's the award ceremony is going to be before all that.
Right.
So
See, but for me, I think you should take into it's just like we talk about this with baseball awards and with basketball. It should be the regular season. It shouldn't even culminate with the postseason. Like, who is the best football player, college football player?
yeah, that's how it'll be.
That's how it should be, not the best quarterback. That's my only beef.
No,
with the
yeah.
Heisman.
Well, that's why, again, people probably get so sick of me saying this, but like, if you say who's the best college football player, it's not Ashton Genty.
It's Travis
He's the
Hunter.
best running back. It's Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is playing both sides of the ball and sometimes in the return game.
Yeah.
And he's all conference at both. He's all American. He's probably going to be an all American corner and a first team or a maybe second team all conference receiver.
Which is bananas. That's bananas.
I mean, the guy leaves nothing to be desired. In any case, right now, the Twitter poll, Ashton Genty is running away with it. See what I did there?
Well done.
60% of the vote for the running back, which it's so funny because this is mostly a Utah fan base voting on this, right?
Right.
And what is everyone at Utah is just like, we got to get more creative. We got to have better weapons on the edge. We got to have better quarterbacks. We got to have better whatever. Hey, you can have any position you want. What do you want? Running back?
Go
Give me
get
running back. I
Ashton
want a
Genty.
give me a great running back. I want a running back. Like, even as we shake our fists at the cloud when it comes to Utah football and the identity and how it can sometimes limit you and it can sometimes be boring, we are still, as a fan base, like, give me running backs. I want something that can win that line of scrimmage.
Someone on Twitter said, Milroe, I don't care how much Wilson improves from this year to next. Milroe has next level running, and right now Kyle's D is always fine, and we always have an RB1 emerge. So literally went opposite of what you just said.
I like that.
Yeah. Out of the box.
Jalen Milroe is going to be in the NFL, so it's a moot point. So is Travis Hunter, so is Ashton Genty. But it's still a fun discussion.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Wild weekend of college football highlighted by, well, two of these three players, not so much the Jalen Milroe situation.
Ouch. Did you watch any of that game?
Just the end.
Well, I think everyone watched the end.
Everyone watched the end.
Like, did you see that they actually recovered the goalpost from the river? Like, the police and the firefighters pulled the
They
goalpost.
sent down divers.
Yeah, and they pulled him out of the river. My still literal favorite thing that happened the entire weekend is seeing those goalposts just walking down Broadway, going past the police barricade.
The cool thing about that, and we've had a couple of these at the University of Utah, and BYU's had a couple, and even Utah State's had a couple. Sometimes something happens around sports on your campus that everybody remembers forever.
Yeah.
Everybody in college football is going to have a memory of that, but Vandy folks especially. Alabama folks who paid all that money, like you said, to take their trip to Broadway and to Nashville, that's going to cut them until their dying days. There will be Crimson Tide fans on their deathbeds being like, roll damn Tide and screw the Commodores. you know? And those Vandy fans, whether you were like a middle schooler just getting wrapped up in it or you're actually a student at Vandy, maybe you were someone who was carrying the dang goalpost. You are going to remember that forever. Only sports do that for you. Pretty cool. One more text before we take a break and then talk with Spence Checketts as he gets ready to host the drive. I lean Genty because of he's generational, tying Barry Sanders' records, but forget the wide receiver skills of Travis Hunter. Having a lockdown corner that takes away half the field is so powerful. Pretty sure Vaughn for Utah is having a better season at corner than Hunter. Is he?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
We'd have to look up the numbers. Travis Hunter's thrown against QB rating is 16 right now, and he's got 2 interceptions.
I think it's 2, maybe 3, but 2 for sure.
So, look, no aspersions being cast right now on Zemiah Vaughn. He's having a great year.
Yeah.
All right. Take a quick one. Crosstalk with Spence Checketts coming next. ESPN 700. Eight seven seven 353 0700 Dish Pro's text line. Answer this question, and I will give you 2 Jersey Mike's sub cards, $25 gift card to Farmer and Chemist, and Imagine Dragons coming to Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater Friday, Saturday, and next Tuesday. 2 tickets to one of those 3 shows. If you could tell me who is currently, right now, today, carrying the 4th best odds to win the Heisman Trophy. 4th best. We talked about this in the last segment. Who is 4th best? 877-353-0700. 4th shortest odds, I guess is the right way to say that, to win a Heisman Trophy as of today in 2024. A fun little reminder to all of you, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. This Wednesday, we're going to be at the Layton Hills Mall for the RV blowout sale, so come see us. Liquidation event happening Wednesday through Saturday. Repos, buybacks, rental returns, trade-ins. Every RV inspected and serviced, free propane and battery, used RV blowout sale Wednesday through Saturday at Layton Hills Mall, and I'm going to be up there. So should be fun. The Drive with Spence Checketts is coming up next. Hi, Spence.
Hello, Sean. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm guessing the Boise State running back is higher than 4th.
Yes.
That's
He is
just-
number 1.
That kid is good, man.
Is
Breaking news.
10.85 yards per carry good?
Was it 14 against Utah State? That was not a fair fight.
He played 1 half against Utah State and had almost 200 yards.
Yeah, that kid can play. But good weekend. You have a good weekend. Chaos in college football.
Yes, and I love it.
Yeah.
And it was, I think, for me, a fun reminder, even though we probably don't need those reminders, that, like, in college football, the week-to-week roller coaster, you just got to be willing to ride it, right? A week ago, 8 days ago now, Alabama was unbeatable. They demolished Georgia. And we were just like, oh, great, another Alabama national championship. Kalen DeBoer picking up right where Nick Saban left off. And then they lost to Vandy. And now the sky has fallen in Tuscaloosa. So it's fun.
Yeah, and good news, I think, for both BYU and Utah with the chaos over the weekend. But Vandy had beat Vatek. They took Mizzou to overtime. I thought they'd cover. I didn't think they'd win. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I thought they'd win. I thought they'd cover, though. It's not they are the only school in the SEC where you actually have to, like, fill out an application to attend. There is paperwork required to go to Vanderbilt.
Did you see what Diego Pavia said? Their
No, what
quarterback?
did he say?
They actually make you go to class here.
Yeah, it's like the only school in the SEC where, at the very least, you have to sign a piece of paper to attend the school. But for Ute fans, there are going to be teams in the CFP with 2-3 losses. And for BYU fans, you're one of 12 teams undefeated, and they're up to 14. BYU beats Arizona Saturday with Urban Meyer and Fox Big Noon kickoff in Provo. Urban, team down south, excited for that. And then they beat OK State, who, by the way, may not even be good. BYU could be in the top 10 just by default.
It's going to be really fun, by the way, to see all of those Cougar tail waving, drunk on swig Cougar fans booing Urban Meyer in the background of that Big Noon kickoff set. It's going to be great.
Yeah, no, it'll be great. Happy for Kalani and that group, and happy for BYU fans to have that that opportunity. But when I saw the announcement, I just laughed because thinking of Urban, we're going to try to get Gus Johnson on the show this week. But, you probably know this. Like, whenever either Rice Eccles or Lavelle Edwards gets national exposure, people are like, wait, it looks like what to play college football in Utah? Like the sightlines of that stadium will be fun. And we'll see what Utah does Friday night. I'm going to talk about it on the show, and all I can say is there's a real belief that if Isaac starts Friday, it might be his job. If Friday night comes and Isaac Wilson's under center, that might be your new quarterback at Utah.
Well, Kyle Whittingham did say in the press conference today, and it was the most interesting answer, good job to whoever asked the question, is there a point where if Cam's no longer reliable or available, you just turn the page to Isaac? And I was actually surprised to hear Coach Witt say yes.
Yeah.
Because Cam Rising is an all-conference level quarterback who's delivered you 2 Power 5 conference championships. So when he gets healthy, you put him back in, depending on when he gets healthy.
Right. And right now, the hesitancy about anointing Isaac, I think, lies in the numbers. They're 113th in red zone offense, 111th in third down efficiency. I think I read today that Isaac, with his 7 interceptions, is more than 112 FBS quarterbacks. Like, I get the idea that at some point you got to rip the Band-Aid off and go with the kid, but it hasn't been good enough so far.
I actually don't think that.
You don't think what?
I don't think that you rip the Band-Aid off and like, well, Cam, even though now we're in week 8 and now you're ready to go, it's Isaac's job. I think that when when Cam's healthy, you give him the dang job.
No
back.
matter when it is.
Yeah, no
Okay.
matter when
All
it
right.
is. He is one of the best players in the history of the program.
Well, as we just outlined, it hasn't been good enough with Isaac.
I mean,
so
and look, that's not a criticism of Isaac because he's done an admirable job in my mind. Like as a freshman, that's a tough thing. And he went in and helped you win on the road at Oklahoma State. That win looks less impressive than we wish it did. But, like, the kid certainly leaves something to be desired. That's what 18-year-old freshmen do. Look, I don't want to chew up your clock.
You're good.
What's coming up on the drive?
Yeah, more of this. I mean, I think we'll start off with why I perceive the weekend in college football behind us to be really good news for both local schools. We're back at it. Game week for both BYU and Utah. It is a historic week in our state for a few reasons. We have hockey starting tomorrow. I'll be down there at the Delta Center, going to do a live hit with Channel 2. And then on Thursday, the BlackRock Championship starts down in St. George. So PGA Tour is back in Utah for the first time in 60 years. Hockey for the first time ever. The Rockets are in town to play the Jazz. RSL with a point. And then obviously the landscape of college football. And even, we won't do a ton of NFL because I don't know if we have time today, but chaos in pro football too. You know, so we'll do everything we can to squeeze it all in 4 hours.
Stay tuned for the drive with Spence Checketts. Big thanks to all of you who interacted on the text line and on Twitter today. I really love it. I really love talking to you, even though some of you are wild and have crazy ideas.
It got a little hectic.
Yeah.
A little, but I think hectic is good.
I don't mind living in the chaos.
No, chaos is good on a Monday.
That's all for the Sean O'Connell Show. Let's do it again tomorrow. Stay tuned for the drive with Spence Checketts on ESPN 700.